Hello there, you're listening to the Box Office Show. I'm Dylan Johnson, and there is no Ryan Hill as he's gone on tour with his Kate Bush cover band, running up that Ryan Hill. Today we're going to be talking about the box office numbers from last weekend and our box office prediction for this upcoming weekend, as always, and I'll be doing a special review of a movie that I was not looking forward to watching, but nonetheless went and saw anyway. The latest outing for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the newest superhero team-up group, Thunderbolts. I'm going to start us off with some news. We missed out on some news last week, so I'm kind of catching up now. We have some new casting announcements for the Hunger Games movie. It is based on the new book, Hunger Games: Sunrise on the Reaping, and the casting includes Maya Hawke as Virus, who makes her appearance in the second book/movie, Catching Fire. She's one of the other survivors of the games, and she's a little bit in Catching Fire. She's a little bit wiry, to say the least. And I think Maya Hawke is a good casting considering her recent role as Anxiety in Inside Out 2. I think it's a good choice. I'm in favor of it. I really like Maya Hawke. I think she's going to do a good job. And also announced Ralph Fiennes as President Snow. He's now the third actor to take his turn as the main antagonist for the series. And, who better to play an antagonist than Ralph Fiennes? Voldemort himself. Come on. Great actor. Will kill the role. He kills every role. I'll be looking forward to that. I haven't read the book. I've heard good things about the book. I've heard good things about Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So I think Sunrise on the Reaping will be also pretty good. And the other big news is this week, the Cannes Film Festival has begun to roll out. So we have some updates about that. Of course, we had the Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning premiere this week. Tom Cruise, McHugh, and a bunch of the cast were at Cannes to promote it. Tom Cruise is literally everywhere on social media right now, trying to push this movie as hard as he can. He is talking to theater workers. He's making appearances in movie theaters, giving speeches. Tom Cruise is fully pushing this. This is his last big outing as Ethan Hunt. Everybody go see it. I'm very much looking forward to it. It's going to be great. We will never get another Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise again, supposedly. This is the last chance to see one of these bad boys in theaters, unless they do a re-release. But this is the last chance to see one of these bad boys in theaters when it came out, you know? And also at the Cannes Film Festival, Robert De Niro was given an honorary Lifetime Achievement Award, which was presented to him by his good friend Leonardo DiCaprio. And I think it's nice to see De Niro get some recognition. I think that's absolutely wonderful. And we have some movies coming out at the Cannes Film Festival this week. Obviously, the majority of the movies are going to be coming out next week, so stay tuned for next week when I go through all the movies that came out at Cannes, and I can kind of highlight the ones that I think are going to be the ones to watch and what I'm most excited for. I'll be doing all that next week. But just to highlight something interesting, we got a lot of actors turned director here at this Cannes Film Festival. Harris Dickinson, who was in Baby Girl and is going to be in the Beatles biopics, has a new movie out called Urchin that is getting pretty decent reviews. And Kristen Stewart has adapted The Chronology of Water, an autobiography from someone else's autobiography that she has now turned into her own feature film. Apparently there have been changes from the books, but it has also gotten a very good reception. So looking forward to that. And next week, Scarlett Johansson will be showing her movie with a huge catalog of actresses and actors, including June Squibb as the lead. So stay tuned for more information on that once it releases and we get some reviews out. Now let's go ahead and do our box office breakdown from May 9th to May 11th. In first, no surprise, Thunderbolts made $32.4 million in the second weekend with a 56% drop, which is very, very hefty. I mean, we all know superhero movies have a big, big bump on that second weekend, and I'm thinking it's probably going to have another bump in that third weekend. We'll talk about that later. In second place, Sinners, $22.1 million, followed closely by a Minecraft movie, $7.6 million. Still think it's stupid that it's called a Minecraft movie, not the Minecraft movie, as if there are other Minecraft movies, as if this isn't just the Minecraft movie. You don't understand. In fourth, The Accountant 2, $6.7 million. Clown in a Cornfield, $3.6 million. Shadow Force, $2.1 million. Fight or Flight, $2 million. Until Dawn, $1.9 million. The Amateur, $1.1 million. And rounding out the top 10, The King of Kings, with 778,000, just under a million. And I think next week we're going to have some bigger numbers. I think next week we will have a top 10 that are all over a million, which is always a good thing to see. It's always good to see the movie theaters getting a lot of attention like that. Coming out next weekend, our box office predictions for May 9th to May 11th. Final Destination Bloodlines is going to be dropping. Just a little information. The original Final Destination had a 10 million opening in 2000. The most recent Final Destination, Final Destination 5, had an $18 million opening in 2011. And the biggest franchise opening was The Final Destination, which was Final Destination 4, I believe, had a $27 million opening in 2009. So it's been a long, long time since one of these movies have come out, which makes sense to me. I haven't seen anything. I've almost forgot this franchise even existed until it just came back out. The only thing I've really seen from this franchise is obviously the log truck scene in one of them and a couple other things. Some people really like this stuff. They really dig it. I, for one, am not the biggest fan of the idea of just like gory, gruesome deaths on screen, but obviously it has a fan base and has a very committed following. And I think this movie has potential to do some really good numbers. Obviously, its best franchise opening was 27 million, but that was in 2009. That's a long, long time ago. I think it could do really, really good numbers. I mean, there's nothing else too big coming out this upcoming weekend, and Thunderbolts is obviously going to have a big drop. Sinners has been out for a while. Minecraft movie's been out for a while. If there are people who want to go out and see something new, that's going to be Final Destination Bloodlines. I'm thinking it's going to do over 40 million. I think it's going to have a big, massive opening for this franchise, and I look forward to reporting on it if it does. The other big movie coming out this weekend is Hurry Up Tomorrow, which is the Weeknd's original movie. I think this movie's gonna bomb, even for the fact that it is like the Weeknd's movie, and the Weeknd is one of the most popular artists out there. I think he probably should have dropped this movie in like 2021 when was at like the height of his powers and with After Hours and stuff. But I think this one's gonna tank. I think he hasn't dropped anything super massively popular in a while. I mean, he had the Dawn FM album, but that was not nearly as popular as After Hours. And I don't know. I think it doesn't look very good to me. I haven't heard very good things about it. I'm saying sub 10 million. I think it's not going to do very good. All right, now let's go ahead and turn our attention to the main segment, Thunderbolts. I had no intentions of seeing this movie. I'm not even gonna lie. I did not see Captain America: Brave New World. So if they're set up in that one for this, I don't know it. I mean, they make reference to it in the movie and went over my head because I did not see Captain America. But I saw this one, and the reason I did, I wasn't going to. It didn't look very good to me, but I went to go see it. One, because the reviews were better than usual for these movies that they've been lately. So that's always a plus. And two, I got invited to go by a good friend of mine who I wanted to see and hang out with. So I was happy to go. In my initial impressions, I was pleasantly surprised for the most part. However, it didn't blow me out of the water. It didn't change my perspective on like Marvel Cinematic Universe. It didn't make me more excited for anything. It didn't really change any of my opinions, but I wasn't like upset watching the movie as I have been in a lot of Marvel movies recently. I was watching it and I was like, okay, this does kind of remind me of like it reminded me of like a mid-tier Marvel movie from like the mid 2010s. It reminded me of like Ant-Man kind of thing. Where like it's not blowing me out of the water, but at least the plot for the most part makes sense, and there's no glaring plot holes, and the humor isn't absolutely atrocious. It was decent. It was decent to say the least. Now, I guess getting into some spoilery stuff from the get go. Obviously, opening sequence, Yelena is clearly depressed. Florence Pugh, jumping off that building, super sick stunt, really awesome. Really glad to see that she's up there doing it herself. It's just cool to see. It reminds me a lot of Ghost Protocol. Tom Cruise on that Burj Khalifa. It's just I think it's awesome. Good stunt, and I think honestly a good follow through in the scene. I was a little. I know they're trying to hit the vibe of Yelena being like depressed and in sort of like a quarter life crisis here, and just kind of like going through the motions in her job, that kind of vibe. but I don't know. I think it dampens the action a little bit in the scene. I do think it's a pretty cool way to start the movie, and I think it's a good way to get a lot of exposition out, kind of in the background. I think it was a smart way of writing it out with all the Sentry stuff going on in the background. But I don't know. I kind of would have just liked to see a straight up action sequence just to get the movie going right off the bat, and then lead into some more depressing stuff. Because the whole movie is kind of like these are the secondary heroes. Most of them are villains in a lot of other projects, and are just being brought in here as sort of secondary heroes, and they're just kind of like in this weird middle place in their lives where they aren't like they don't they aren't upset at their situation, I would guess, but they aren't like loving it. It's like a quarter life crisis for a lot of them, or, and depending on the age, for some of them a midlife crisis of like, what am I doing? Where am I going? What's going on? This isn't what I want to be. And a lot of them are dealing with very like strong feelings of depression, anxiety, and not wanting to be there. Obviously, they showcase this a lot throughout the movie, and I think it was the right way to go about it. I think it's a phrase I've been saying a lot with these movies is good idea, not the best execution. I think it was a solid choice to have all these characters have that thing in common of like lone wolves who don't want to be wolves anymore. They are sick of being alone and are lonely and depressed, and bringing them all together in the vault, which I guess we'll move on to now, was also a smart way to kind of bring them together and give them like a common goal all at once. Is they're all there because they think they're trying to kill a target or something or whatnot, and really it's just a trap to get rid of all of them, kill them all by Valentina, so that she can just get rid of it and move on and not get got by Congress. I think there's a lot of like exposition-y stuff in between, that opening sequence and really when the vault stuff kicks off with Valentina in the Senate, with Bucky as a senator, and that stuff doesn't really click with me all that much. I love Julia Louis Dreyfus. I think she's fantastic and everything. I just don't really love her character in this. I think she's a little bit one note, one dimensional politician kind of character who's obviously just very backstabby and manipulative, and there's just not much there. I think Julia Louis Dreyfus has fun with it, which is great, but I don't know. I just don't love the character as a villain that much. And Bucky as a senator, does not vibe with me at all. Not even slightly. I mean, it's just not the role for him, and I think the movie is aware of that. I think that's kind of the point, is that he's not really meant to have this politician role. He's trying to do. He's trying to make waves. He's trying to make change that way instead of just being a superhero. And they're like addressing the fact that that's not like suiting him very well. But I guess he's a representative. I don't even know. He's a representative, not senator, but it doesn't matter. He's a politician, and they just don't really give him like a lot of depth with his character in this movie, as much as I was kind of hoping they would. I mean, he's had a lot of screen time in the MCU so far, especially with the miniseries he had with Falcon. But I feel like even in that, he was had a more diminished role, and here is like he is just here to advance the plot forward. He doesn't really have much to do on his own, and that kind of is disappointing for me. But the Vault, uh, I think a great set piece. I think a great way to bring the characters together. I think it lasts way too long. I think the opening bit where they're all fighting each other and then Ghost appears and kills Taskmaster is great. Also, rest in peace, Taskmaster. I mean, oh my god, what a shitty way to end that character. I think they should have kept it going longer for Taskmaster. They killed her off way too fast, in my opinion. Been waiting to see what they were gonna do with this character since Black Widow, and they finally brought her back for 5 minutes and then shot her in the face. Fucking disappointing, man. Really, 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 really unfortunate. And I guess I guess they kind of just blow it off a little bit. This is like a character that Yelena knows. Like Yelena was in Black Widow. She knows his character. She understands what this character went through. And they're just like, they're okay that she's dead. It's sad, but she went through a hard life and now she's dead. And they just kind of move on. I don't know. I feel like Taskmaster deserved a little bit better going through. I know that there was supposed to be there was a canceled plot point of Taskmaster like lasting longer, but having sort of PTSD with her life experiences, having memory loss as a result, and continuing to a bit where she just forgets that John Walker is on their side and she keeps trying to assassinate him. I think that's funny. I think that would have been a good bit to go with. I would have liked that a lot. That would have been great. But hey, can't have can't have everything. Can't have the good. Got to have the mid. And then, of course, in the vault, we have the introduction of Lewis Pullman's character Bob, who is a new character in the MCU, and I think he's fun. I like Lewis Pullman. I think he's the king of just like kind of being there and being funny because he's there. He does that in this. He does that in Top Gun a lot. He's just kind of you know in the room, very normal guy by all appearances sakes, and just kind of hanging out. What I like is that he gets to do that for a lot of this movie, but then they do give him like a lot of character depth, especially halfway through. And I think he has a good character arc to go on. And I think Yelena has a good character arc to go on. And Red Guardian, his relationship with Yelena has a character arc in itself tied to Yelena, which I think is good. And then none of the other ones really do. I guess John Walker maybe a little bit, but definitely not Ghost, definitely not Bucky. They're all just kind of there to support those leading characters. John Walker has a little bit there, but not as much as I would like, you know. They fight in the vault. The vault gets locked. They're about to get blown up. They escape the vault. I think everything up until that point is pretty good. I think it's pretty solid. I'm on board. I'm having a good time. And then they have to escape the vault. And everything from that point till the final action sequence when they get to New York, I think is just so long. I think it's way too long of an escape attempt. I think it's like I think the part where Bob turns into Sentry kind of in the desert where he starts to fly after they shoot him and then he we see that he has superpowers. I think that's really cool and really great, and I think it's a good like continuation for his character. But the whole build up to that, where they're like climbing the elevator, you have Bucky who's trying to figure out what's going on, Red Guardian's trying to figure out what's going on, and they're like, there's just so many moving pieces to get through to get to the point where they're all just together in a room and they convince Bucky to go and save Bob is so lengthy and convoluted. There's just so much going on. It's like a good 45 minutes. And I think parts of the end of the movie get sacrificed because they spend so much time on this part. And this is the section where they're trying to build up this team as a team, which I get. I get that's what they're trying to do. Their whole mission in this is to make the Thunderbolts so like a real team, feel like a real team. And I don't know. I feel like you could have done that a lot quicker, and I think it would have been I think it would have been better to build a team if they had built them up individually alongside one another and then at the end brought them together. I think that would have been a better idea as opposed to just giving them all this common goal that they have to fight for and just assuming that they have a character arc when half of them don't. And the plot for this movie is like ripe for a character arc. It's characters who are depressed, who are up at odds against the void at the end of the movie, who is the manifestation of like bad thoughts and depression and kind of like absorbs them into this sort of depressive state that they have to relive over and over again. It's like it's ripe for that sort of character arc, and they just don't pull the trigger, which we'll get to. I just that part is definitely disappointing. And I just think the middle portion is just so long, and it's all about the banter that they have. There's some good action, I think, when the soldiers break into the vault and they're trying to shoot uh Yelena and Bob, and they have to kind of work together to beat them while also dealing with the mist or the fog, whatever you want to call it, that they're fighting through. I think it's really good action. I don't really know why Ghost keeps coming back. They do like little one-off excuses as to why Ghost keeps coming back, but they don't give her enough of an arc to give her a real reason to help these people. She could just leave most of the time and she stays. And I don't fully understand. I'm sure they say it. I can't remember even if they do, but they don't really give Ghost a good enough character arc here for a character that's supposed to be one of these, members of this big team. They just don't give her enough of a reason to stay. Because John Walker is there because he wants to be Captain America. Red Guardian is there because he wants to be a hero again because he yearns for that. Yelena's there because she wants to help Bob. Everybody has kind of a reason, but I don't know what Ghost's reason is. She's just there. What's the point? I don't know. Maybe she feels guilty for killing Taskmaster when she didn't have to. I wish that would have been a good thing to get into. if they'd used Taskmaster's death as like a character arc plot point for Ghost to go through, of like, I killed this person who probably didn't deserve to die in that moment. Should I work through those feelings? Apparently not, according to the movie. Doesn't matter. She's dead. Oops. Just kind of moving on. Unfortunate. Uh, so they escape from the vault. We have Sentry. They start building him up. They take him. They put him in the old Avengers Tower. They give him a suit. They dye his hair blonde at some point. And we get a little bit of Valentina's backstory here because every time Lewis Pullman touches one of the characters, they sort of get taken back in time to a flashback of something, some kind of repressed memory that like really affects them. And again, ripe for character arcs here that they totally skip through at the end, ripe for it, and they just don't do it. But Valentina has an interesting backstory where she watches her father get killed, and that kind of affects her desire to be powerful and strong and not want to be pushed around at all. John Walker has a good backstory where he's just not respected. He's fucking walked all over because of the events of Captain America or the events of Falcon and Winter Soldier, and how much of a shithead he is in that. And Yelena has a good backstory of just her general trauma that she has to work through in this movie. Like they all have arcs that are set up that could go through, except for Ghost, and they just kind of half-ass it halfway through the movie, which is upsetting. But again, the action is pretty solid. The car chase in the desert, it works. There's nothing necessarily horrid about the action. It just also doesn't quite stand out to me. It just feels kind of generic, but it works. And the banter, again, is it works as well. It just also isn't like the greatest chemistry in the world, but it works. For the most part. I think Bob's addition is very fun. I think even though I think the climbing the elevator by holding on to each other bit kind of goes on for a very long time, I do think it is funny when they get to the top and they're like, "Now what do we do?" And Bob's like, "Oh, I don't know. I didn't think that far." And they have to figure it out. And then John Walker just leaps for it and almost kills all of them. It does. It has moments like that where it does. It is kind of fun to watch a little bit. God, John Walker's such a dick. He's such a dick. But that's the point, isn't it? It's the point. And then they decide to team up. Bucky hunts them down and locks them all up somehow, ties them all up. He's going to bring them back in to testify against Valentina, and they're arguing that they shouldn't do that. The bigger priority is to save Bob, who is like a god of some kind that Valentina is going to use to her advantage. Again, I don't really. Do they want revenge against Valentina? Or are they really trying to save Bob? I think the idea is that Bob is dangerous, and they don't want Bob to fall into the wrong hands, I guess, which tracks. But I don't know. The whole movie is about like optics. It's about like trying to look good. Florence Pugh wants to be the hero who like stands on the stage and is heroic, and Red Guardian wants the same thing, and Bucky wants to do actual good, and Valentina wants to appear like she's doing good and just do whatever's in her interests. It's all about optics. It's a very politicky movie, which it just doesn't. It could sell that message a little bit better if it like leaned into the politics a bit more. But it's really just about looking good. It's just wanting to look good, which is that really the cure all solution to depression? I guess look good, feel good. I don't know. I don't think it just doesn't land the mental health message as well as I would like it to. And the reason is because we get to the void. So Sentry shows up. They break into the building. This is kind of a funny bit. They crash the door and then they're fighting people. And then Valentina just says, "Come on up." Like the door was unlocked. It's kind of defeats the purpose. Kind of ruins the action. It's a little funny. I kind of wish they just cut it out and just had a full action bit where they're getting up to the top. It would have made Valentina seem a little more intimidating that she has all these soldiers fighting for her, and it would have made the fight to get there a little more exciting and fun to watch. But they just take an elevator up, and then Sentry shows up, and dude, what a god! Oh my god, he's overpowered, unstoppable. I mean, he's not fighting like the A-list superheroes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe or anything, but he's fighting some pretty strong people. He's fighting 3 different super soldiers at once, plus like very other strong superheroes, and he's just swatting them like there's nothing. He's a strong guy. he would put up a good fight against the big dogs, Thor and Captain America and Iron Man. He'd put up a pretty good fight. Hulk might beat him up. I don't know. This is like nerd talk, I guess, of which superhero would beat Sentry, who would beat who. This isn't really my expertise. I haven't read any comics, and I don't really care enough. But I do think the design is cool. From the pictures I've seen, pretty comic accurate, and I think it's just funny how like kind of hacky it is. In the MCU, nobody really has like this cheesy superhero outfit like this, and so they give it to him because he is by all means like an optics thing. Like he's meant to just like look like a Superman, you know, to be this like comic-y hero. I think it's really really funny, and so it works for me. I think it looks good because it's supposed to be kind of a hack kind of thing. And I feel bad for Bob. I feel bad that he gets manipulated. I feel bad that Valentina uses him to advance her goal and then just tries to abandon him and get rid of him. I feel bad. It just sucks. And obviously it does. He turns into the void. So Valentina, she kills Sentry. She tries to kill Sentry. She thinks she kills Sentry, but obviously he's too powerful for that, too strong. And his other side that he's been referencing this entire time, is the dark side to him that he's been referencing this entire time is coming out. And good design. We've got some good designs the last few months of villains with little beady eyes. We had the vampires and sinners, and now we got this, and it's still intimidating. Just this dark figure with these little beady white eyes. It's very very scary, and I think him turning the people into like the Hiroshima shadows, the nuclear blast shadows, also intimidating, also very very scary. Because initially, who knows what happened to these people? Are they just dead? When you're watching the movie, it just kind of seems like they're dead. You know, it doesn't really explain where they go. It just thinks that he like point his hand at people and just kill them immediately, which is terrifying. And in theory, it's like, how are they going to beat him? Like, they couldn't beat him when he was Sentry. Now he's the Void, and he's evil and more powerful and won't listen to reason and is just killing people. They don't stand a chance. And that's kind of the perspective that I'm running at going into that part of the movie. And obviously, while that's going on with the Void and Valentina downstairs, the team is sort of splitting up because there's just no fucking shot they're going to beat Sentry, no chance, and so they're just giving up pretty much, which is unfortunate. And then Yelena and Red Guardian, they have their moment where they kind of get out their grievances and they share the deepest parts of them emotionally, which is like a good emotional climax for a relationship. But I think I think it could be stronger if, because they have their emotional climax in the argument that they have. They reach a conclusion that has like a satisfying ending, and I think it would have been better had they pushed that part off until the very end of the movie. You gotta really make them want it. You gotta edge the audience a little bit for that emotional climax. You know what I'm saying? You gotta really push it to the very very end until they're like begging for it, and they don't do that in this. They have their fight that's been stewing this entire time, and then they just get over it. And then action happens. The Void shows up, taking people out left and right, knocking buildings down, and almost a gut instinct, all of the heroes kind of kick into action and start saving people, which I think is cool. I think that's a not a bad way to kind of lead into that final boss fight. Is that without even thought, without discussion, they just sort of start acting like heroes to save innocent people, which I think is cool. But oh yeah, and then the Red Guardian saving the little girl, and then having her immediately turn into a shadow. Oh, I went in the middle of the theater. That shit was crazy. I did not see that coming, especially because I thought that meant that they were killing people. I thought these people were dead. You know, I did not think they were coming back, so it was very much shocking. And then Yelena, runs up and she decides to go into the void, and then I'm like, oh, okay. So everything that I saw beforehand is probably just gonna get reversed. Obviously, the void itself starts taking over all of Manhattan. I'm like, okay, yeah, they're not gonna kill all of Manhattan. Okay, I really thought they were gonna kind of pace. I thought they were dead. I thought entering the void meant that you died, and I thought they were just gonna spread it out a little bit and have the void do like a shit ton of damage. But it's Marvel. They don't want to go that heavy with it. That would be pretty fucking heavy. I'm not gonna lie. So they just don't do that. And this is the point where I get a little disappointed with the movie because it was starting to pick up after they finally like get to New York and they go to fight Sentry. It was finally picking up. The Void shows up. He's really cool. Good idea. Good follow through. She enters the Void. She's now reliving that vision of her as a child that she's been reliving the whole movie. And she's like trying to change it. She can't change it. She decides to run from it. She like is entering other memories that Bob has had that she's running through. This part I like. It reminds me of like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind or other like certain episodes of like BoJack Horseman or The Sopranos, where you're just running through dream sequences. Very, very like subjective, like ethereal kind of things that can really get across like conclusions to character, emotional conclusions to character arcs really well. And they just skip through it. She gets straight to Bob. She helps Bob. Then all of the other people just show up and save the day. And we didn't even get to see the stuff that they got through. So fucking disappointing. I wanted them each to go through their own thing individually. They're supposed to go through their own thing individually that concludes their character arc that they can get through. And then they come together as a full unit that has like overcome their collective depression and they can work together to help Bob. That is like just the simplest, in the simplest terms, good writing. And if done right, it could be an actual good message for mental health. And this one just isn't it just isn't what it's trying to be. I don't think, it kind of solves the mental health issue a little bit neatly in the sense that like you need like having other people by your side is what you need, which I mean, it helps, of course. Letting people in around you and having people help you is massively useful. But you can do good for yourself as well. Like you can do both. Both are needed. You have to be there for yourself as well. You have to put in the work. And I just don't get to see the characters put in the work, which is upsetting. I don't get to see John Walker get through, being a loser and being a fuck up and like forgiving himself for that. I don't get to see Ghost go through whatever the fuck because who knows what she's going through. I don't get to see Red Guardian like accepting himself as who he is and not like glorifying the past anymore. I don't get to see Bucky doing whatever the fuck he has to get through anymore because I mean he's already supposedly had a character arc in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, so they didn't want to give him one in this one. Who knows what the fuck he has to get through? They don't show that either. They show Bob and they show Yelena, and Yelena sort of gets through what she's trying to get through. I don't really know what they're trying to say about that. That she has to forgive herself for those mistakes, and that she is the hero that she always wanted to be by just helping people. By helping Bob, she gets to be that version of herself that she wanted to be. I guess I don't know. But Bob, of course, has all this trauma that he's trying to get through, and he just doesn't think he can do it alone, and so they do it with him and he's able to get past it. And like I think the imagery of him beating the Void, but as a literal representation of him like holding the Void, as opposed to like beating him down, is as like the visual representation of him letting go of his trauma, like being held as opposed to just attacking it out of anger. I think it does work if they had set it up better. I think it's a good ending that didn't have the build up to make it a good ending, unfortunately. So just doesn't, it does not stick the landing like I was hoping that it would. And then, of course, movie ends. Everything goes back to normal. The Void disappears. Bob is back. He is no longer the Void or Sentry, and he has no memory of what happened because he's repressing that shit. Of course, I mean, I would too. And they're all kind of charging up against Valentina. They're gonna beat her up because she sucks. And then she pulls them through to the other side of a bus or something, and there's a bunch of reporters. And we have to reveal what the asterisk means in Thunderbolts. It's an asterisk referencing the fact that the real title is The New Avengers. They are now the New Avengers. And they kind of get what they want, I guess. They get to be heroes. The optics works out for them. But is that really the lesson we want to take home? Is that the way to feel better isn't to accept the position you're in, it's to fake the position you want? Because they really the New Avengers? I don't know. I mean, I guess you could argue that they are kind of accepting that like they are heroes. They were already heroes beforehand. They just needed to accept themselves as such, and they could be it. I don't know. Again, they just don't. sell it for me, unfortunately. But now they're the new Avengers, apparently. And they are in Avengers Tower, and they set up some new stuff. And then, of course, the after credits scene is a good teaser for Fantastic Four. Of course, we know the Fantastic Four takes place in the 60s. The Fantastic Four ship is now entering Earth in our timeline. How did it get there? We don't know. You're going to have to wait and see the Fantastic Four movie, which honestly, I think I will. I think I will go and see Fantastic Four. I wasn't planning on it. I'm not really excited for anything in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm not dying to see how any of these plot lines come together because they're not really running together at all. I think it's still pretty messy. And this movie didn't change my opinion of that. And it didn't make me excited to see anything more. It just kind of exists and was fun to watch in the moment, I guess. But it wasn't always fun to watch. There were times where I was bored or I wasn't as excited. And I just wish there was more to the individual characters as opposed to just putting a bunch of charismatic actors on a team together, and giving them like semi-decent dialogue as opposed to trash dialogue. It's a step up, but it's like it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Still a step forward, but it could have been 2 steps forward. That's kind of how I feel about it. Anyway, how many depressed superheroes out of 5 do I give this movie? I'm gonna give it 3. I'll give it 3 depressed superheroes out of 5. I think it could have been worse. I did find it entertaining what was going on, but there's just so many glaringly obvious mistakes going on in how they wrote it that I think would have improved the movie so easily. It had such great potential with the script that they had. They just had to change some elements of it and really expand more on that void bit at the end to really hammer home some character arcs, and they just didn't do that and flesh out some characters more. They didn't do that either. They just wasted so much time on banter and action in the very middle sequence, and a lot of time on Bucky just politicking, and a lot of time on Valentina politicking, and just skip all that because it's not good. And if you want it to be about the Thunderbolts, make it about the Thunderbolts and make it about them individually and then bring them together. It's almost like the idea of, the Guardians of the Galaxies. It's about them all kind of as individuals coming together to, be there for the common goal that they have. That was a good example of like a superhero team up movie. Is you introduce them each one by one, who they are, what their goals are, what they want, and then have them work together. And they have things that they need to get through, and they get through them together. And that's good. This is mid. Overall, just mid. Anyway, that is all the time we have. If you'd like to give your thoughts on the show, you can email us at theboxofficeshowpod@gmail.com. Our main title theme for the show is Sundown by Joseph McDade. And if you like the show, please give us 5 stars on whatever podcast app you're listening to. Be sure to tune in next week. Have a great rest of your day.